The key objective of Guidance Rubrics is to automatically grade and give hints for Canvas quizzes. Here's the image of a Canvas quiz. Here's the question, and here's the region for the student to enter their answer. After the student enters their answer, Guidance Rubrics automatically grades the submission and then generates these hints. The AI grading is based on rubrics. Rubrics are explained in detail in other videos. Here we'll just briefly explain some aspects of rubrics. A key aspect of rubrics is the idea of a rubric component. Consider the question, explain the significance of the Louisiana Purchase in American history and its impact on the expansion of the United States. A complete answer to this question would cover these 6 topics. We call these individual topics components. Then for a single component, we can evaluate whether the student has correctly addressed that component using a Boolean combination of prompts. Here we see an and an or. So to get full credit for this component, the student would have to have their submission correctly So in order to get credit for this single component, the student would have to correctly address this Boolean combination. So to get full credit, they have to discuss this topic and then discuss either one of these topics. The user interface provides a method to define rubric components and the rubric elements. Here we see an example for a particular question and quiz in Canvas. And we see that it has 2 components. Drilling down into a component, we see that this component has an or and then 2 rubric elements. This component down here also has an or and 2 rubric elements. As mentioned, there's another video which goes into detail about how to build rubrics. However, a complete solution to automatic grading and giving hints is more than a rubric editor and a system to evaluate rubrics. For example, here is a list of features that the system currently has. First one here is examining student submissions and the AI grading. The idea here is we need to explore how the AI is performing against different students' submissions. Here we see a part of the UI. We're reviewing all submissions for a particular quiz and a particular question. Here's the rubric, and we see the list of students. By the way, these student names are fake student names for this demo. And we see the student submission, and here's the rubric, the executed rubric. We can drill down into the rubric to see exactly how the grading performed. This is an or with 2 rubric elements. Since the first rubric element was graded as correct, there was no need to evaluate the second rubric element. Drilling down into this first element, we can see exactly the messages sent to the AI. Here's the system message, here's the user message, here's the reply from the AI, a response from our system back to the AI, another response, and finally the response from the AI. A more detailed look at evaluating student submissions and the performance of AI is given in other videos. The system also includes a convenient way to create and test submissions. This is useful if you just are testing out the system and you want to explore its performance and how to make rubrics. Here's the user interface for doing that. We see that we have a quiz here and a question. And there's 2 ways to create a submission. One is you can paste the submission here, or we can use ChatGPT to generate submissions. Pasting submissions is useful if you've given this question in a previous course but didn't use the auto grader. So then you can take student submissions and paste them here. And down below, you can see the list of the submissions that you've created, and you can scroll and edit and delete those. Then going to student submissions and clicking on the test manually created submissions for a particular quiz and question. We see the submissions here, and we can see some rubric elements. And we can adjust these rubric elements and we can test them. This allows us a playground to explore the performance of different rubric elements. This workflow is also described in a separate video. It's important to have a way for the students to alert you if the grading seems to be incorrect. To handle this situation, we give the student instructions in the comment section to say if they're not sure if the grading was correct, they can include the text "manual review requested." The user interface provides a workflow that allows you to examine the submissions where students have requested manual review. Here we see a quiz and the question, and for a particular student, again this is a demo name, and this is the attempt where the student requested a manual review. Here is their submission, and we see the text "manual review" is requested. We can drill down, see exactly what happened in the rubric, and finally we can put some comments here. So the full comment would look like this, with a section with manual comment, and then the remaining section of the AI generated comment. If we think that this comment is correct, then we can submit this. Other features include managing graders. So if you have students that are going to adjust rubrics and evaluate how the AI is performing, you can manage those graders in the system. You can also import rubrics from previous semesters, and you can manage which questions are automatically graded. Furthermore, there are advanced features that allow you to label student submissions as far as which components are correct and which rubric elements should be marked as correct. Then you can compare rubrics, and you can even build your own LLMs. You can take existing LLMs and you can fine-tune them and then use those LLMs in your grading. Again, there's many videos that cover these topics in detail.